The Tennessee Titans and Jeff Fisher have agreed to part ways. Fisher will no longer be the head coach of that football team. After 17 seasons, the longest tenured coach in the NFL, Fisher out in Tennessee. And joining us to talk about it, Herm Edwards. It appeared Fisher was the winner. The whole Vince Young, Jeff Fisher sweepstakes, the whole thing to fight. What happened?
This reminds me a lot of what? You remember what happened in Denver, huh? With the good coach down there, Coach Shanahan, kind of similar. Got into a conversation with the owner. One thing leads to another, and then you're done. And I think this kind of stemmed from the offseason when the season was over with, and they decided, well, we're going to go with Jeff Fisher. We're going to get rid of the quarterback, Vince Young. But Jeff had to fire two guys, and I don't think he really wanted to fire them. Chuck Cecil, his defensive coordinator, and Jim Washburn. And Jeff is a guy about principle. And I think he just got to the point where the season's ended now. He's watching the playoffs, sitting back and going, you know what, now I've got two coaches I fired. I have 1 year left on my contract. Hard to find an assistant coach that you're only willing to give a 1 year deal to. So those are the things that kind of go through your mind when you're sitting there. And he probably said 17 years, you know what? Maybe I'll go look at some palm trees. Or
we talk about, here every time a coach gets fired about another knee-jerk reaction. Guys get fired mid-season, during the season now all the time. And here's 16 years. Is there a good and bad of that, for being around that long, where maybe either you're taken for granted or maybe you don't have the room like you used to?
Well, I think for as long, he had the longest tenure, and Andy Reid's the next guy. I mean, that's a long stay anywhere. And sometimes you need a change of scenery. Just as a coach, I mean, you stay there for a long time, and sometimes the owner needs a change of scenery too. But here again, Bud Adams has always stood by Jeff Fisher. Now, for some reason, it hadn't worked out. We don't have all the details, but right now, this is a good football coach, and he knows one thing: if he sits out this year, there's some jobs going to come available next year.
All right, how do you think this decision will affect the Vince Young decision?
Good question. They've already said Vince Young is gone, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, Bud Adams loved Vince Young. Now, does Vince Young come back in the fold? And if he does, so be it. Then who's the next head coach? That's the key right now. If Jeff Fisher is not the coach, who are they going to obviously interview and hire?
I asked John Clayton this, that, how would you characterize his tenure there? Look, a lot of success, right? 3 13-3 years, Herm, but also 5 500 years, 5 losing years. How would you characterize it?
I think he's one of the best football coaches in the National Football League. Yeah, he hadn't won a Super Bowl, and I get all that, but his tenure, how he's handled players, what he's done in the National Football League, his body of work as a coach is outstanding. So I'm a Jeff Fisher fan, period.
So 22 games over 500 over 16 years. You got 4 division titles. In 16 years, that's a great run of success.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, all the quarterbacks he's had to deal with there. I mean, a lot of different changes. A lot of things went wrong with this organization at times, and Jeff Fisher was the rock. He always stood strong.
Okay, real quick, who do you think would be a good fit there, coaching?
Oh, that's a good question. Whoever's going to go there, they have to understand you're going to have a relationship with the owner, Bud Adams. That's the first thing.
Okay.